Star Destroyer. Do you copy? This is the prison vessel Purge requesting permission to dock. Our hyperdrive is damaged and we are in need of immediate assistance. Imperial Star Destroyer, do you copy? Is anyone there? Sir, their comm is up, but we have no response.
Destroyer 316, this is the commander of the Purge. As a result of your repeated failure to acknowledge our distress call, I hereby authorize the salvage of your ship. Prepare to be boarded.
Death Troopers, zombies, in Star Wars. Something that has been discussed on the internet for quite some time now, and there's a lot of mixed feelings about it. I've personally not thought that much about the idea, and I tried to avoid it as I didn't really like the concept of zombies in Star Wars when I first heard it. But I was suggested by Conor, who runs the page Who Else Wants Star Wars Battlefront 3, and also the page Who Else Wants Star Wars Death Troopers, to make a video about it. And after looking more into it, I'm actually starting to quite like the idea that has been discussed for a while now. And this idea was first sprung by the novel called Star Wars Death Troopers, which is also the trailer that I showed you at the start of the video. The novel is about an Imperial prison barge that breaks down in the middle of deep space, and the only hope for those on board it is a Star Destroyer drifting around in space nearby, which from the outside looks abandoned. But when they send on a boarding party to scavenge for parts, only half of them come back, and with them they brought a horrific disease, so lethal that within hours nearly all on board the ship will die in ways too hideous to imagine. There's a lot of different opinions about this topic, and some people actually want some kind of mode in the new Star Wars Battlefront that would include these so-called Death Troopers. A bit like in the mode in Call of Duty, which is completely separated from the story and multiplayer and doesn't really negatively affect the gameplay in any way, even if you're not a big fan of zombies. I've personally never really liked the thought of zombies in Star Wars Battlefront, but something else that would actually make sense is if Visual Studio would either make a separate game about Death Troopers or let it be a part of the upcoming game that they are currently working on. Because as you probably know, Visual Studio are working on a Star Wars game right now, and they are famous for creating the Dead Space series, which is a zombie-ish game series played out in space in quite dark and remote environments. So they, if anyone, are very qualified to create some sort of Star Wars zombie game. I've played a little bit of Dead Space and just read the summary of the Death Troopers novel I mentioned before, but to be honest, it sounds like a perfect match between them both, and I think it would be pretty cool if they made a Star Wars Death Troopers game that would be separate from Star Wars Battlefront, such as the one Visual Studio is working on. Or maybe even a standalone movie, who knows. However, I personally can't really see the standard zombie to fit in the Star Wars universe, so I'd rather see something quite new that would take the term zombie to a new level. The whole zombie virus that would turn people evil is something I can actually see fit in the Star Wars universe, considering how far technology with medicine and overall has come. But I don't really see it being like these classic zombie movies or games where you have 100 zombies slowly dragging themselves closer to you. It would have to be something other than that. But if we're talking about gaming more specifically, I think what I'm more interested in is the game mechanic behind many of the zombie games currently on the market, where you get a flood of enemies against you that you get to unleash your full weapon arsenal on and just mow them all down. This can often come in waves where you have to protect a specific spot against waves of enemies, and I think this is something I'd really like to see in the upcoming Star Wars Battlefront, no matter if it's zombies, stormtroopers, Ewoks or something else coming against you. Because in many games you play, it's really fun when you face a massive amount of enemy bots, even though it might not happen very often. One example of this from the old Star Wars Battlefront games is on Bespin platforms, where enemies are funneled down into these corridors in the middle of the map, and you can just stand there and spam grenades and rocket launchers and rack up a tons of kills. I'd personally love to see a completely separate mode for that in Star Wars Battlefront. Well, to conclude, I think there's two parts of the zombie genre that I'm interested in for the upcoming Star Wars games. And that's first of all this whole horror dark themed story that can be experienced in games like Dead Space, and I think a Star Wars themed Dead Space would be a pretty damn cool, no matter if you think zombies fit in the Star Wars universe or not. Secondly, it's the whole horde part of zombies, when they come in massive numbers without any weapons against yourself, who's a heavily armed player. That's probably the part I'm most interested in, even though that might not be directly limited to zombies, but can be used with any kind of enemies, to be honest. This is a topic I'd absolutely love to hear your opinion on, as there are some very different views on zombies and Star Wars, so make sure to leave a comment below and I'll make sure to read all of them. make sure to check out Conors' pages in the description below. He has the original Facebook page for Star Wars Battlefront that has been up for a few years now, as well as the Star Wars Death Troopers page. Anyways, thank you for watching, I will see you soon again, and as always, may the Force be with you.